This report under the recommendations is asking for an increase of $4.5 million to the 2019 to 2022 capital plan. I'm concerned that we should not be increasing amounts in this capital plan. We are moving forward into our 2020 budgeting process and scoping process as a council. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
Go ahead.
As we know, the capital plan was approved by plebiscite on the back of the ballot last October, and it had been the items that were included in this had been approved, I believe, in July of 2018 by the prior council. This council approved the budget in December. And we are, even though we really had a very short period of time to examine the budget and the capital plan going forward. So my concern in approving the recommendations here is that we are increasing the capital plan by $4.5 million, which may not seem like a lot of money, but when we consider the increases that we have before us in property taxes, in borrowing, and in dependence on developer contributions, I would like to send this back and suggest that staff find a way to balance the adjustments and closeouts without adding additional expense or increasing the capital plan budget. So I guess my question to staff would be, have you explored every possible way to balance this without coming back to us for approval and additional funds?
Thank you. So probably the largest portion, well, not probably, the largest portion of the increase is $3.1 million in transportation, which is fully funded by Translink. So we continue through the course of the year and through the course of capital plans to look for external funding. And whenever we can find external funding that can offset some of ours, then we can set some of our money aside. In this case, it's additional work that's been identified along 41st. And so we've worked with Translink. They're fully funding all of the work, the $3.1 million. But because it's added work to our capital budget and our capital plan, it's an increase in the total dollars in the capital budget, but it is fully funded by Translink for the $3.1 million. If council is asking us to keep the overall budget the same, that means that when we identify a project from Translink that they want to fund, we would need to cut a city project somewhere else in the system, which would be far more difficult. Right now, it's easy for us to say, yes, we can work jointly, you're funding it, and it's very consistent with our goals and objectives. But that's the $3.1 million increase. I think there's $825 million for modular housing that's also being added, and that's the majority of it. But does that make sense?
I hear you, but I don't know that you hear me. We have seen an increase overall in the budget in the last decade of 50%, and increasing issues around affordability.
You need to stand while you're.
Oh, sorry, forgot. Council still getting 6 months in and still getting the protocol down. But I am concerned that I have never heard any kind of attempt to say, we're going to hold the line here. We're not going to increase the numbers. We're not going to look at what we can be doing to hold the line and maybe even push back a little bit.
My point of order is really around the comment that was made by Councillor Hardwick to staff, and it's not been sitting well with me, and I just want to remind members of council that you should not buy, and the phrase she used was, you have not heard me. And section 5.2F of the of our procedure bylaw says you should not, by words, etc., express an opinion or make allegations that directly or indirectly reflect upon the character of a person or a group of people. I think saying to staff that you have not heard me is inappropriate to say within our council chambers.
Thank you. That's noted.